Hello and welcome to Growing in Uncertainty. My name is Tess Miller, and through my coaching and seminar business, Wings Unfolded, I help people who love what they're doing, but they're not sure where it's going. And my intention with these videos is to deepen my own experience of feeling stuck or uncertain in various areas of my life. And my hope is that by sharing what I'm learning about being stuck or experiencing stuck, that we can grow in uncertainty together. So in my email this week, I share an email each week. If you don't get the email newsletter and you would really like to, head on over to my website and you can find it there. You can sign up for it there. But anyway, in my email this week, I shared a story about the book signing that I did a couple months ago and how that book signing didn't necessarily turn out the way that I was necessarily expecting or hoping that it would turn out. And, it was an experience where I wanted a lot of different people to come, and I was so excited to share my book for the first time with the public. And the host, said that, there would be lots of people there. The only problem was that it was during a street fair. And during this street fair, it also meant that I had to be out in back of the store. So that didn't necessarily mean people would know that this book signing was happening unless they came into the store to find out. And then on top of that, it was really hot outside. So it was kind of miserable for those of us who were outside. Afterwards, I did do the event, and there were a few people there. My friends and family showed up, which was really nice. And it went really well. I did and said everything that I planned on doing and saying. But then later on, I noticed myself starting in with the should-ing. And the should-ing goes like this for me. Oh, I should have known better. I should have canceled it. I should have done something to see if I could have been in a different location. And then, of course, my personal favorite, which I think I've shared on here before, my personal gremlin statement was, no matter how hard I try, it's not good enough. So all of those thoughts were going through my mind after this event. And it was really hard for me to accept what happened. I had worked so hard to get ready for that event. And fortunately, I noticed what I was doing pretty quickly. I've done enough self-work that I have my number these days. And so I don't let myself get away with that kind of stuff for too long anymore. So I, noticed that I was falling back into some of my old stuck patterns. And I noticed that I was really resisting the experience of what happened. I was resisting all of it, the good, the bad, everything. I was so busy shoulding that I couldn't just really experience the wholeness of it. And I think by shoulding, I was trying to make a different outcome. Whenever we start shoulding, it is us like trying to envision how it could have gone differently, and we have that resistance that builds up inside, like, oh, it could have gone so much better if only. But then shoulding tends to put off feeling the emotions that are actually right underneath the surface of the shoulding itself. Resistance is something that we do as a survival tool in our lives. It's something that we learn right away when we're very young, and it's really helpful for putting off any of those emotions that we really don't want to feel. And it's understandable. Who would want to feel unworthy or like they failed or feel frustrated or angry? Those are not the lightest, happiest emotions in the human experience. So it's completely understandable to resist that experience of those emotions. chances are you have noticed your own resistance patterns in your life, and you can hopefully trace back in your life where you may have developed those tools in order to feel safe in your childhood. And again, there's nothing wrong with wanting to keep yourself safe. That's normal. That's human. But when we're not accepting what happens in our lives, when we're resisting instead, it actually makes us continue to experience exactly what we don't want to experience. And the way that happens is that, we start limiting ourselves. We start holding ourselves back. Well, this won't work out because, all kinds of things. We tell ourselves all kinds of stories to keep ourselves safe. And also the emotion that we're trying to avoid just ends up getting stuck, and it ends up becoming a trigger point for us too. So that whenever something similar happens in our lives, it triggers that same emotion that we're trying to resist. And then we try to resist it even more. So no matter what happens, there's that saying, whatever we resist persists. And that those emotions will re-emerge whenever those similar experiences happen. So there are 3 things that I know that have worked for me in situations like that, when I notice that I'm resisting life rather than accepting what has happened. And one of them is to become aware of exactly what and when you're resisting your life. The second is to then shift your mindset about that. And the third thing is to truly accept what's happening in your life. So I'm going to go through all 3 of those and explain how you can maybe incorporate those 3 steps into shifting yourself into accepting more of your life. So step 1 is all about developing your awareness. And this just involves noticing when you're emotionally triggered. That sometimes is a lot easier said than done. I mean, you can probably conjure up a memory of when you were emotionally triggered. Maybe it happened today. I don't know. I know I've been several times over the last several days, and I can point to them. But sometimes they can be so overwhelming that it's hard to stop in that moment and say, oh, emotional trigger. But with more practice, you can start to say, oof, wow, I'm feeling a powerful emotion right now, and it was triggered by something. Let me see if I can figure out what it was. So once you've acknowledged that you are, in fact, triggered by something, see if you can press the pause button. Pressing the pause button doesn't mean the emotion is going to go away. And this is why this can be challenging. It means that you're going to sit with that emotion for a second, and again, not comfortable, not easy, but it can be really powerful. So if you can push the pause button and then allow the emotion to be there and put your attention on the thoughts that come up with that emotion. What are your thoughts? Are you blaming yourself? Are your thoughts about blaming other people? What are your thoughts on? And then this brings us to step 2, which is all about shifting your mindset. So once you've noticed and you've become aware that you've been triggered, now you can take a look at your mindset or take a look at your emotions specifically. Can you label your emotion? I've noticed for me that when I can label my emotion, it kind of brings it down to size. It's kind of like that fairy tale Rumpelstiltskin, as long as Rumpelstiltskin knew you didn't know his name, he could do whatever he wanted. But once you knew his name, then all your problems vanished, or so the fairy tale went. I'm not saying that your emotions are going to go away when you say, I'm sad. I wish they would, but they don't. But they will come down to size. and labeling them can just be a really good, powerful first step. So then you can notice, well, where are these emotions landing in my body? You know, what physically do I feel when that emotion comes up for me? Is it in my chest, my belly, my neck, my eyes, you know, whatever, wherever you feel that particular emotion. And then you can think back to, you know, some of the stories that these emotions tend to tell you about your life. They might be memories from a long time ago. They might be telling you stories about whatever's happening right now. I know for me that when I am triggered in a feeling of feeling unworthy, my solar plexus, my upper belly, will start to feel really knotted and constricted. And I can start remembering stories of when I was in college, for example, and maybe there weren't very many people in the audience, or I was nervous about certain people in the audience. Or maybe there were times when I was a kid and my sister didn't really want to play with me, and that made me feel unworthy. Or times when people on the playground when I was a kid made fun of me because of what I wanted to play on the playground. No, that's really dumb. I don't want to do that. That would make me feel really unworthy. And those were some of the stories I noticed myself telling myself during or after the book signing event. And I realized, oh, my body is picking up on that and remembering all of those stories. But the question that you can ask yourself once you notice the stories that are coming up for you is, are those things happening right now? And chances are really good. Most of the stories that the emotions are telling you aren't really happening right now. They're things that happened in the past. They're the ghosts of memories, basically. And the reason why those feelings that come with those memories can be so easy to slip back into is because we've pushed those feelings there. We haven't really fully processed them. We haven't fully acknowledged that they're there and let them go. So it's understandable, but it's also sort of like the experience of watching a really heart-wrenching movie. I don't know if you have this experience. I have it all the time, but sometimes when I'm watching a movie, I'll get completely lost in the drama and the emotion of everything, and my body will tense up, and I'll notice myself really having the emotion of whatever the character in the movie is going through, and I have to remind myself, it's just a movie. Otherwise, I get so embroiled in it, I can bring that feeling back with me into my real life until I remember, oh, wait a minute, that wasn't happening to me. That was happening to the character in the movie. So although our real history did happen in the past, that doesn't mean that it's happening right now in the present. And if you can kind of look at it that way, like, okay, this memory is like me watching a movie. It's not happening now. It's not real right now. It was real in the past, but it's not now. That could be a way to kind of break that, the way you're viewing that story down to size. And then once you've done that, you can choose another way of looking at whatever truly is happening right now. For example, in my book signing event, I needed to focus on the fact that, hey, my family and friends really showed up for me despite the heat and all of the commotion that was happening at the street fair. And that's really cool. It's nice to have that support from them, especially since they probably had all read the book by that point and were tired of hearing me talk about it. So that's a real sign of love. And then, you know, I could also look at it from the standpoint of the fact that, yeah, it was really hot out there. No wonder why people didn't want to come out back and, you know, stand in the heat and hear me talk about a book about being stuck. ugh, yeah, I wouldn't want to do that either. And also, something else I realized in viewing this situation from a different viewpoint was that we're kind of still in a pandemic, and maybe people didn't want to gather behind a building in the heat. So, the pandemic could have been a factor in all of that too, which is understandable. And also, it did give me an opportunity to figure out what does and does not work for future book signing events. So that's a win. And, I realized after going through the list of, different ways that I could look at that event, that, the ways of viewing it were really limitless. And a lot of them were really positive and beneficial to me and understandable. So basically, the shift involves becoming aware of what's really happening, not with the stories that are happening, but what's really truly happening in the moment. And then you get to choose how you want to view it. This helps release a lot of the challenging energy that comes up with emotions, and it helps feel lighter, and it helps you feel like you're not quite so stuck anymore. So finally, the third step is to truly accept what's happening. Excuse me. Now that you've had the opportunity to acknowledge your thoughts and feelings, and you've looked at various ways of perceiving what has happened, it's possible that you're ready to accept what has happened. So true acceptance is different from fake acceptance. And I wanted to kind of point that little tidbit out. True acceptance is when you're able to still feel the feelings and emotions of what has happened, the disappointment, the frustration, but you're also able to choose a response that is not a reaction because of those feelings, but it's a response that comes from your higher self. It's the part of you that makes the wisest decisions. So, how do you know if it's your higher self that's choosing the response? Well, I know it's my higher self calling the shots when I feel empowered by my response. I know that it doesn't necessarily match what I would want to respond, because the way I would want to respond usually goes with how I'm feeling, those stuck feelings. But my higher self response might look like a response that someone I really admire might choose, and it would also, be the best option if I saw somebody else going through that experience. So again, the feeling might still be there, but you're still responding in a way that comes from a higher part of yourself. But then what's fake acceptance? What does that feel like? How do I know if it's fake acceptance rather than true acceptance? Fake acceptance, this is when we remain bitter and kind of resentful about what's happening, and we push our feelings away, and we also focus again on more of the blame, but we still choose to respond by saying, well, it doesn't really matter. We kind of gaslight ourselves in a way. We find excuses for why, it's fine. Life will go on. It is what it is. Those kinds of statements are just basically pushing the feelings aside, sweeping them under the rug without really acknowledging, wow, I'm really sad about this. But I think moving forward, I want to, that would be more of the true acceptance. So fake acceptance just kind of has an air of, well, it doesn't matter. It's fine. In the movie Groundhog Day, I feel like this illustrates really well the main character Phil's progression through, you know, resisting, very definitely resisting. And then there was sort of fake acceptance on some of his, you know, days that he would live through until the very end when he truly accepted the fact that he just needed to be in the moment. He just needed to live with every single experience and accept every single experience that he had. So if you haven't seen Groundhog Day, highly recommend it. I'd be surprised if you haven't. I know a lot of people have. But, you know, again, if you haven't, go see it or stream it or however you watch your movies. So anyway, my hope is that, you know, just like in the movie Groundhog Day, true acceptance set Phil free. I hope that true acceptance will set you free too. So I hope this message resonates with you. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. I'm always so grateful for your presence and to hear any feedback you want to share with me. Please like or share these videos with friends and family who might need to hear these messages too. You can stay tuned to any of my updates on Facebook or LinkedIn under my business name, Wings Unfolded. Or you can find me by name, Tess Miller, on Instagram and YouTube. On YouTube, you can find all of my Growing in Uncertainty videos in the playlist called Growing in Uncertainty. And if there's something that you would like help with related to a life transition, please feel free to send me a private message. I'd love to connect with you. And remember that it's okay to be stuck, but you don't have to stay there. Have an amazing week and take care.